Lofa, you see this background I got?
Yeah, Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
Swole Ned Flanders. I didn't know what Ned Flanders worked out.
You sure that's Ned Flanders? It looks like our quarterback, sort of, kind of, you know?
I don't see it.
Jack, but maybe a little boring, maybe missing the fire.
I see where you're going here now.
You know, Lofa, I'm so mad from this last weekend. You know, do you remember when, like, your mom and dad or, like, your parents or a teacher or something would be so mad that they, like, had no words at all? Just nothing. Like, nothing would come out.
They were disappointed, right?
No. I mean, like, beyond that. Because we've done that. We already did that this season. Remember, I said I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm past that now. Like, here's what I want to do. I want to walk into the room where all the Seahawks are hanging out. I would walk in. I would look around. I would breathe in through my nose, and then I would just turn around and walk out. Like, that's how mad I am. I have nothing to say.
You think that would send the message?
I don't know. I don't even. What would you do? What are you gonna do? How do you feel? I'm beside myself over here.
I'd run the fucking ball. All right. All right. This is what we got a special guest coming on later.
Yes, I know.
That's gonna appreciate that strategy, as they call it. But this was my greatest fear, right? Now I'm stoked to have Russ back.
Dude.
But
it's
the
over.
defense has been left out there too long, my man.
It's over, man. It's over. Blow it up. I don't know.
No, there's still like half a season left.
We have no fire. We have no energy. We're boring now. We're Ned Flanders. We're super jacked, but we're like, hi diddly-o. Like, we have no personality. It's over, man. It's over.
I'd say we have no identity right now. And that's what's the scary part midway through the season. But, there were some things, believe it or not, that were, the defense for three quarters and 10 minutes.
We'll get into it. Let's officially start the show. I'll take a deep breath. I'll try to find words because somebody's got to say something. Let's do this thing. Courtney, go for it.
Let's get this crowd going now. Come on, get him up. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Lofa to Tupu is up in the mix.
Go Hawks.
I'm just about that action, boss.
Takes the snap. He's going to throw down the middle. What a catch!
It's intercepted by Lofa to Tupu.
Holy catfish!
Hey, that's great football now.
It's going to work now. Let's keep playing.
Who's got my back?
I got your back.
That's Lofa. The player.
Triple plant. Thunder. On one ready. Play.
Russell looking.
Go Hawks.
Russell scrambling.
Go Hawks.
Pump faking.
Go Hawks.
Still looking. Now he spins out.
We got to fly, baby.
35-40. Down the far sideline. He's still moving. He's going to go.
20. 10. They do it again. Touchdown. Seahawks.
It's the Seahawks podcast on the Believe Sports Network. I'm Seahawks superfan Brett Davern, and he is Seahawks legend Lofa Tatupu, all-pro middle linebacker. Always brought the energy when he was out there. You never had to worry about it. You ready to do the show?
You got to do something, right?
Where's the energy I just talked about? Come
on. All right, let's
go.
fucking go, man. It's go time. It's going to be the best podcast we ever had.
We've got a very special guest joining us, and I will get to that in 1 second. But first, let me tell you about our sponsor, betonline.ag. Your online wagering experts. The only place to make online wagers is betonline.ag. And if I flip over to the email here, Jimmy Betts from Bet Online sends me some odds and all these crazy graphs and colors and numbers, and it's you need a beautiful mind to figure this thing out, which Jimmy Betts has from Bet Online. But if I'm deciphering this correctly, Lofa, right now the Seahawks are 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. I don't know if you want to put some money down at betonline.ag, but that's the current. There you go.
I figured we'd be steeper odds than that.
We started out at 20-1. We're at 100-1. You can get them right now. You can bet on plenty of other stuff at betonline.ag, NHL, NBA, MMA, NFL. They also
Kraken.
The Kraken, the mighty Kraken. Yeah. They also have a 24/7 online casino with all the table games and all kinds of things. It never closes. It's betonline.ag. Use our promo code
BELIEVE50, BLEAV. 50.
Yeah, to get your welcome bonus at betonline.ag, your online wagering experts. All right, well, without further ado, special guest on this episode, and unfortunately we have to talk about this game, but hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. Mike Wahle, I mean, Lofa was talking about it earlier, just an absolute savage, former offensive guard in the league, and led the way for plenty of running back in his time. What's up, Mike?
How we doing, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Big
thanks for
Mike.
And you're doing a podcast
My
now.
guy.
It's the On My Block podcast. You do it with Amon Green, also a former Hawk, of course. I think I used to whatever version of NFL Blitz I had, I'm pretty sure Amon Green was on the Seahawks for that video game. But
His arms really are that big. That was not.
He's an absolute savage now. I'll tell you what's funny is like he started playing rugby when he was done playing football.
Oh
I
my
did the
God.
same thing, but I went the wrong way. I lost like 50 pounds. This man got bigger. I remember I saw him in Indianapolis like 2 years after he retired. His arms were the size of my legs, bro. I mean,
You guys were just playing rugby for fun?
Well, listen, we're just trying to find our way in the world, man. It's just another
Absolute
adventure.
animals.
this beast, I love it. You guys are both on the same podcast. This is awesome.
We have a good time.
How did all that?
But it's like I think I told you earlier though. Ours is so unprofessional. Like this literally to me is like the $1 billion setup. You guys have producers. You have people in different states working. It's
Two producers.
Amon and I, and it's literally just us going. Hey, you want to hop on a Zoom call and talk about some stuff? Maybe we'll have a framework this week. Maybe we won't. It comes out okay, but production value needs to work, especially now that I see this. Production value needs to improve.
Oh, hey, we could hook you up with producer Courtney here. They got it going on.
Yeah.
We need some help.
Brinks.tv. Shout out to them, Brinks.tv.
Brings TV, Courtney, Katie. I mean, we
but-
started off just blank screen phone call. So,
Totally.
yeah, we had to
Now
grow
you
up
know.
fast.
Yeah. Well, guys, I mean, let's get into it. I really didn't even write much of a rundown for this episode, Lofa, because like I said, I don't really have much to say. I mean, I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. I feel like I wasted my Sunday. I'm sure a lot of Seahawks fans feel this way. I mean, Lofa, we could go through our texts from during the game. You stopped responding at a certain point.
Yeah, I think I passed out.
You
Of
know?
boredom.
It'd be a good way to look back through the timeline. I mean, guys, just initial thoughts. I mean, Mike, like, what
I have a question for you guys because I love Seattle and I love the Seahawks organization. Just honestly saved me because I hated football, for the 2 years prior to that, and even though I spent a couple just games there, I absolutely love the organization, everything that community represents. But I don't understand how in this storied franchise now you have this, and I don't know if he trademarked it, but this whole like let Russ cook thing. Like, do you guys think that's a viable offense? Is this how we're going to win a Super Bowl? Like that, the whole premise, like I just want you to know, like around the league, people are kind of giggling. Like you just keep letting him cook. You keep letting him cook. Go ahead.
They're laughing at us.
Yeah, man. That's not a sustainable way to win championships.
Lofa, you want to take that one?
No, it's tough because, that's what we were, hoping when Pete, he ended the press conference last year upset. He goes, hey, I want to get back to what we did to get to the Super Bowl, run the ball, and then we'll open it up. And it's always, Mike, and run to open up the pass. Because I texted, my Seahawks podcast here last night, I go, do you see this beautiful offense going on in San Francisco right now? Just running it 13 times on one drive. It was just poetry in motion. They can't stop it. And it's just 3, 5, 4, 3. And you saw how frustrated the Rams got. The game got away from them because now Stafford's playing from behind and just chucking it up to try to catch up. So it's defense and running the ball will always be a successful formula to get into the playoffs and make a deep run.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I think on this show, we tried to get rid of the let Russ cook thing last season during the season. I think we called for a stop to this. It was started by some other Seahawks podcast, I think a fan podcast. I mean, no real shade on them. They started this thing online, and it became like a Twitter thing that Seahawks fans would just say sort of to each other. But once the national media picked it up and ran with it, it became so cheesy instantly, and he began not cooking instantly. And we can tell that everyone's laughing at us, and it's half of what's pissing me off so much. Like, what has happened to my team? They've become, I don't know, like Disneyland or something. Like, they're like a shell of what they used to be. It's all fake. It's all a facade. What happened to the just absolute dogs and savages that we used to have on this team and the fire that this team used to play with? That's why I got Ned Flanders in the background. They're shredded up like Ned, but they're always wearing the sweater. Take off the sweater.
I feel like you guys have like guys that, like, your offensive line, you have studs on your team. Like, you guys are really good players, right? It's just your offensive line is a line that I would just say they have to play on their front foot. Like, they need to be play going forward. Mm-hmm. They're not really dynamic enough to trap and do the pole game. Like, you need to play them forward. They're not pass pro over the course of, listen, the worst thing for an offensive lineman is dropping back, not knowing when your quarterback's going to throw it and not knowing where he's going to throw it from. That is the absolute most disheartening thing you can do for an offensive line or an offensive system over the course of a game, a series, a game, a season. Yeah. It's impossible to go out there every single week and be like, you're going to get my best when I literally have no idea. When your quarterback is gaining fame and notoriety based off essentially what's going to amount to my failure in the public eye, that is not a good thing, right? Roethlisberger went through this kind of after that first Super Bowl run when they lost their guys and he was throwing off schedule all the time and everyone's harping on their offensive line, but they had like 3 Hall of Famers on that line now, right? All of a sudden they were no good anymore, right? So it's really, really tough. And you guys it's Marshawn Lynch, that identity, the thing that you had, it's not like it. Like those things are still valid. And I think everybody thinks that like Pete Carroll's in this, was in this like archaic system that doesn't work. Like Lofa, defensive, like linebackers aren't nearly as good as they used to be. Defensive linemen aren't as nearly as tough and good against the run as they used to be. Like it's a different game.
It's a much different game.
If you wanted to play physical, you could still play physical. You just have to go ahead and teach them how to be physical and then stick with it.
Well, watch out. You might get a flag too, though. So, don't get too physical. And if you do something cool, don't celebrate too much. And then we'll get into that.
And don't start me on the refs. Oh my
I was gonna say that's a whole. We're gonna go there because I'm going there, man. I already had who else was I yelling about early? Carenti. Now I got Brad Allen on my list. I'm learning all these guys' names.
The fact that we know their names exactly.
Know their names. But we'll get into that in a second. I think for me, it's like you said, Mike. It's like we got the players, we have the talent. These guys, some of them absolute beasts. I mean, all of them beasts. But it's like a personality thing. It's an identity thing. It's like. I don't know. It's like, are they over the Pete Carroll thing? Is Pete, does he have the attention of the team anymore? I'm seriously wondering, like, or is his rah always positive, stick with the program thing just sort of like, I don't know. Are these players just sort of like rolling their eyes at this? Or is Russell has his sort of thing worn a little thin maybe? I don't know. It just seems like they don't play with the same fire that they used to, Lofa.
Well, they do, just in the wrong times. Throwing a shoe, fighting guys, grabbing their face masks. It's like, who throws a shoe? Come on, man.
It's not a talent thing, man. It's not a roster.
It's not.
You know what I mean? It's not a personnel thing. It's not.
For a little while there was kind of a scheme thing with, the stick front or the hybrid variation of the 3-4, the 5 D linemen, 2 DNs outside linebackers. And people were just – we weren't stout in the run, and then all of a sudden that middle area just became wide open. And so it's but we've actually cleaned that up on defense. I was proud with the way they played. I don't know if we want to take it there now, but defense was stout.
What do you want to start with? You want to start with the good or do you want to start with the bad? Because there was some good things, some positive things, especially defensively.
Let's get the bad out of the way.
Okay. Well,
finish on a good note.
Well, let's just start right away with QB3. Obviously QB1 on the depth chart, but Russell was back. He came back early from the injury. We can discuss whether maybe he should have not come back so early. I'm not sure. Some of those throws were pretty errant and not like him, way over guys' heads, and velocity seemed off, and he still had a Band-Aid on it. So, I mean, they didn't score any points. They scored 0 points,
First time ever.
He's throwing it behind people. People aren't catching it for him. I mean, 2 interceptions in the end zone. One of them I don't think was an interception, but we got hosed a bunch of times by the refs. I mean, you want to just talk about Russell's game and his first game back after this injury?
Yeah, I mean, seriously though, like we got to commend the man for getting back out there in 5 weeks. I mean,
for sure.
I know, okay, moral victory but that's pretty damn special,
Okay, but now watching the game.
Tell me what's special. I don't want to. I'm not arguing with you because he's a quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, right?
Correct.
So if he's bragging that he's spending 19 hours a day rehabbing his finger, like, isn't that what he's supposed to be doing? Like, it's just that because you got to understand, maybe outside of Seattle, that's all everybody's. Oh, well, it was supposed to be minimum of 8 weeks and he did it in 37 days. It's like, well, then if it only takes 37 days, then it doesn't take 8 weeks. Like those two things don't work together. That's not how science works, right? Like you don't have special ligaments. You know what I mean? That's your job to go do that.
He's got a hyperbaric chamber, probably. He's got
all of that all of that is a consequence of being the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, right? And being the consequence of who he is. And that's kind of your responsibility. Like if Lofa breaks his leg and he can get back in 2 weeks, if he does everything possible, I'll be damn sure that he's going to do everything in 2 weeks to get back without making this big thing about it. Right.
Well,
and
it's like, Mike, all the mental reps too, and the shadow playing that he was doing on the field before the games.
The mock games, 2 hour mock games. Hey, I'm just giving my man credit. But you're right, Mike. Okay, maybe I'm getting soft in my old age.
Hey, Lofa, I'm just saying it takes – here's what I see with Seattle sometimes, right? The narrative now is more about everything involving him, whether it's his fault or not, right? It's everything involving him versus what's going on with the team. And it just that at least externally –
like a divide – between
I don't want to say it's like you remember back in the day when sometimes some of the Legion of Boom guys would be like, he's too corny or whatever. You kind of hear some grumblings coming out of that. Not like that, but just like the narrative about Seattle is always about him now, where it used to have Marshawn, you used to have the Legion of Boom. It's all centered on him. Everything he does, it's centered on him. So, and then it doesn't seem like he's one that wants to shy away from that attention either. So I think it just is somewhat takes away from the narrative of the team.
What do you guys think about it? Like, did he come back too early? I mean, Geno was playing fine. We all said it the whole time. Geno looked good. I mean, the way that defense played.
I don't think he came back too early.
Well,
did he look a little rusty? Yes. That's a dad joke. But
I mean, I'm not asking for Geno over Russell if Russell's at 100%, but he's coming back early and he's playing.
The game plan changed. The game plan changed. I mean, we were committed to the run no matter how ugly it was in the last 3 weeks, right? We were still going to get a volume of 18 to 20 runs. That at least keeps their offense on the sideline, our defense fresh. Because you saw what happened in that last drive. We just got worn down. And it's just like it's bend and bend and bend, don't break. And it just becomes too much. And, we've been there. Mike, I'm sure you've been on teams. I have, where it's just like, okay, no identity. Like we're trying to figure out what do we do best, and as players, we know
not a lot of juice either, right? Like not a lot of energy either.
Yeah, but it doesn't even matter about the juice. Like those last 3 games, okay, Pittsburgh, and then they all came down to 1-score games, and we just lost by 3 scores and didn't even put up a point. I mean, I don't think we don't have the same game plan if Geno's in there, and I'm not saying Geno over Russ, but I'm saying, and if this is what, the narrative that we're talking about, and if it's Russ, right, and then the team, then someone needs to sit Russ down and say, hey, we need to run the ball so that you can throw it 30 times in the second half. But
dude, your legacy is much better if you win Super Bowls and championships, and it's not going to happen like this. So something's got to give. I don't know.
There's a lot.
Yeah. This is not the answer. I want to ask you guys though about Pete's comments after the game, because Pete sounds frustrated as much as the fan base is with sometimes Russell doesn't throw the ball, and it seems like he holds onto the ball too long. We've been over it and over and over it on this show, and now Pete's commenting on it. He says, quote, in essence, we've got to get the ball out more quickly so the rush isn't a factor. I mean,
do you guys think he can see over the line? Like if you look at where he sprays all the balls, do you think? I don't think he can see over. I'm not trying to whatever. Drew Brees had a hard time too, right?
He was
but
looking
there's no like
Lofa won't let me say this. By the way, I've tried to say this before. Lofa won't let me say this. It's not a knock on him. It's just a fact. He is a certain height. And
when you're watching the game, there's no like turnarounds. There's no 5-yard stick routes, or there's no like 10-yard digs. There's nothing right across the middle because they're all deep, or they're to the outside, or it's on some sort of like keep ball.
Yeah,
it's a fair question. I think I don't see why people think that question is so unfair. I think it's fair. I mean, Drew Brees couldn't see over the line either, but he would chuck it up. Russell doesn't throw it.
But when we get to 3-step, you got to get rid of the ball, or you got to just take off and run. You have to. Those are your choices.
Yeah.
Get rid of the ball, throw to the receiver or out of bounds, or run and stay ahead of the sticks, right? And so we're not seeing that. And then on top of it, and we haven't done it as much. Well, we did do pistol, right? It drives me fucking nuts, Mike, when we run from shotgun and the QB never keeps the ball. It's like, well, it's
what's the point?
What's the point? You're not fooling anybody.
And he used to back in the Super Bowl runs. Like the option was such a big thing, and they would keep it. And Kaepernick was doing it, and everybody was doing it. And now they don't ever keep it.
Well, but then also that opens up the pass and the play action. Yeah. Now, like when he just keeps it once, even if he gets a negative yard, right, just gets back to the line of scrimmage. Now they're like, okay, the DN's like, okay, I can't just crash. I have to actually honor this. And it's just it plays into it. And then the fly sweeps. Where did all our offense go? That's what
when we play teams, and now Mike can talk about the Packers too, because when we play teams like the Packers and we're playing in that game, and you see Aaron Rodgers just snap it and throw it to Adams, he just snaps it, throws it, and it's like,
3 or 4 of those.
And I mean, we got DK Metcalf, snap it and throw it. Like, what are we doing?
But that's part of. That's part of how Aaron's worked himself into that system too, right? Like he's got some freedoms. I don't know. I mean, I think Russell Wilson probably has a ton of freedoms, right? And to Lova's point earlier, when you do bring in that backup quarterback, then like the rest of the team kind of goes like, oh, okay, cool. So now we got to do like the offensive line, the running backs, the tight ends. Like, oh, great, we're going to run the ball. Like the mentality does change because there's a fundamental difference in the way I approach a game. If I know I'm going to drop back 70 times versus I'm going to run the ball 35 times. There's just a complete difference in mentality, right? You're no longer you're getting punished. You're no longer the punisher. Yeah. So when you look at like Aaron Rodgers and the way they run their offense, and they've had some hiccups too. Like they're not nearly as efficient as they were last year. And I think weapon wise, they're pretty stacked. I know we've had some guys going in and out with injury. Offensive line's been hurt, but they're playing really well. Aaron might be the most talented guy in the league for the last 10, 12 years. There's just really, honestly, that when you watch it, especially like you watch the Chiefs game, when everybody's out on a short week, like there is really nobody like him in the league that can do what he does. And like the way that he makes decisions at the line of scrimmage, his communication, his nonverbal communication with the receivers, like he's playing a different game than everyone else. Everyone says like checkers versus chess, He literally is that chess player where nobody else is right now. And I just don't think it's as easy sometimes to say, oh, just throw those screens. Like he's throwing those screens off of run games. Like everything's built in, and he's just that guy who knows when to do it. Yeah. Versus he's never hoping. Like Aaron Rodgers is never hoping. Everybody else is hoping.
Yeah, he sees the DB 10 yards off. It's like, okay, that's just as good as a handoff. That's a 5-yard gain at minimum. And then you throw it to a guy like Devontae. Every now and then he rips one for 50.
And out of the slot too. Like there was one play in particular where he snapped it. He was in the slot. He just threw it to him. Aaron's going to look.
Diggs made that shoestring tackle. That Diggs gets pretty good.
He's awesome.
Diggs is
he's a good player.
When we get to the positive,
I like that guy a lot.
Aaron Rodgers is going to look great in a Seahawks uniform next year. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be.
Brett keeps trying to manifest these things.
Well, okay. I mean, Russell Wilson finishes 20 of 40 for 161 yards, the 2 picks. And then, but the stats that here in the passing game that I want to talk about is DK 3 catches, 26 yards, and Tyler Lockett 2 catches, 23 yards. I mean, what? Like we could have got OBJ. We wouldn't have thrown it to him. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, DK Metcalf is an absolute beast. Throw him the ball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was the targets? I mean, I know those are 5 receptions, but what was the targets? Because that's what we talked about. Are they getting
let's see here. DK 3 catches on 8 targets.
Okay.
And Tyler Lockett 2 catches on 8 targets, but it was thrown behind him, thrown over his head.
Yeah,
I don't have to go back.
DK had one bad drop. There was a 3rd and 10 when he had a crease. And I mean, that could have really got things going.
Yeah.
It was just, there was no rhythm. And again, I mean, when you're just sitting drop back, it's 7-on-7, but I mean, they were making all the plays.
Well,
you can pressure with 4. Like, Packers can pressure with 4. Yeah. And the other thing is too, again, if you just think about, if you know Russell Wilson's going to hold the ball, which now it's no secret, and your safeties are just sitting deep, and we can play like a 2-man or like a 4 with a press off the line to take away the quick throw. Well, now, I mean, Amos and Savage, our 2 safeties, they never got beat deep, which you guys get a lot of plays on those. I mean, he might be the best deep ball thrower in the league, right?
Yeah.
But every single one of those plays is contested. And it's like, Lofa, you know how this game goes. If he catches that 3rd and 10 crease and he's off, the whole game's different.
Yeah.
One touch, one play, it's not just the score, it's just the yardage. It's what it does, the mentality of the defense and understanding like, we can be injured.
Let's go. Yeah.
That changes everything. And when you miss those plays, man, it happens early, it happens late.
one of those throws to Tyler Lockett. I mean, the interception in the end zone, the deep one where the safety. I mean, he's just like looking at the ball the whole time, watching it in.
Amos, he should have had 3 interceptions. He dropped 2 others.
Coverage. I don't know that.
The toughest pass, the interception in the end zone that took points off the board. That's the toughest, thing to come to terms with, because then it's 3-3, right? And then even before the half, we get a holding call, knocked us out of field goal range.
A holding call that wasn't a holding call. I mean, you want to do?
You got trucked.
You want to
do referees now?
That's Mean Dean Lowry, man. You can't mess with Mean Dean now.
Let's do referees now, because Brad Allen, man. I mean, what in the world? I mean, come on. Even as a Packer fan, like that Kevin King interception was, that's real close. And then, how about the fumble recovery by Aaron Rodgers that was not a fumble recovery? I mean,
what is that? Does that tie goes to the runner there? I couldn't understand that one either.
That payback for the fail Mary. I mean,
payback for the fail Mary. That's what it was.
If Aaron Rodgers had that ball, then so did Golden Tate. All right, I don't want to hear it from Packer fans anymore.
Even now,
come on.
Well, so look, you remember the first when we missed our first field goal, Elton Jenkins got for a holding call on an inside move that was not. That it raced the Aaron Rodgers scramble for a first down. I mean, my point is, I turned off the Tennessee Titans game yesterday for the first time in silent protest.
Wow!
Because the quarterback hit on Ryan Tannehill was so bad, and that was essentially turned out to be the game. And it's like, you keep complaining about the refs. So what do you do, man? I was like, I know this one TV just turned off in America, but man, I'm turning this TV off until this Packers game. I'm not watching this stuff anymore. I'm in protest.
It's bad all the way across the league. We went over the Cassius Marsh thing from last week. Like all these referees, and like Lofa and I keep saying, why do we know their names? Every time any play now, I'm looking for flags on every play. I mean, there was a one where Jamal was chasing down Aaron from behind. Aaron got rid of the ball. Jamal didn't do anything worth a flag, and he didn't get a flag. But in my heart goes into my chest because I'm like, oh, great. He's even close to the quarterback. It's like, what have they done to the game? It's just so legislated. And I mean, it has to be frustrating for you guys as former players. I'm just a silly fan.
Yeah.
Loaf, do you remember back in the day when we were playing, you really only knew the head coach and you knew players.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Like because of fantasy football and all the betting and everything, it became very, very offensive friendly. So it became very scheme heavy. So now we knew all the coordinators' names.
Yeah.
Right. So all the coordinators are super popular now. You can name all the coordinators on all the teams. And then like now it's the same. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, now the refs are trying to get in on the action, man. Like maybe they got some contracts tied to like BetAG or BetOnline AG or whatever.
They all go on TV. They all go on TV after their careers are over, and they sit in the studio, man. And who knows what they get paid to comment on the game and whatever. Like, but isn't it time, if they're going to be these celebrities walking red carpets, shouldn't we make them full-time employees and actually put them through some film school and training and get on the same page and have some consistency? And I mean, they wear earpieces. The NFL can get this stuff right all the time from a million different camera angles. That fumble recovery by Aaron Rodgers was not a fumble recovery, and they could have got that right in the moment, kept the game moving. Why are they wearing earpieces if we're not going to use them?
Well, then what? Also, like when Russ scrambled for that first down, this was the longest clock I've ever seen in terms of like, let's go check that out. And did they throw a red flag to like review it, or was that from like the booth?
So those are from the booth. So they are, every once in a while you'll see these guys reverse a call now, but then it's like they're reversing call, and they did reverse that one, but that was probably the first one that I've seen that like had any impact on the game. Yeah. Whereas like they could have easily done it with the Aaron Rodgers fumble recovery, but they do have a guy somewhere. I don't know if it's down the NFL office or if it's in the stadium that can call down and just reverse things. But it's like, so why are we still doing this with penalties? I don't like simple penalties. Things are obvious. Like I know if it's 50-50, you probably got to keep it. But if it's like 80-20, he didn't do it, man, just wave it off. Let's just keep playing. I
mean, call down in the guy's ear and just go like, hey, we just watched that. It's actually not helmet to helmet. Just pick up the flag and we can all move on. Or there's such ways that this can be solved. I mean, it's like, it's maddening.
I mean, it could even be funny, right? They could just call down and be like, yo, Dean Lowry just pancaked that guy. It's not a hold. Just say the guy got the business.
Just wave it off.
Yeah, no flag. He was giving him the business.
Well, and then also the first down thing. I mean, that first one with Russ is ridiculous. And then later in the game, the Packers had one that was very close to maybe being not a first down. No review at all, just first down. Let's put the ball down, keep going. And it was like, well, hold on a second. Why did we take forever to look at the one from Russ? And now we're not taking any time with this one. It's just, I don't know. Ugh.
I was very surprised Pete didn't go for it on that 4th and 1, though.
Hey, how about Pete with the flip phone coming out of his pocket?
The burner.
Instead of the challenge. Hey,
a lot of questions when he got home that night, huh?
Yeah.
You dropped your jitterbug, buddy.
Yeah, what was that?
His life alert button? I don't know. What the hell?
Oh, man.
Young and virile still. How dare you?
All right. Let's move on to some positives, at least from a Seahawks perspective. And, I mean, the defense was great, right? They played great, at least through the first 3 quarters. They held the Packers down. I mean, they, right, Lofa? I mean, hey, Jamal had a pick?
Hey, yeah. I was going to say, you can't leave this episode without talking to the guy. You've been on him all year.
Do you guys like him? I mean, I know he's a stud, like he's an absolute unit, but is everybody happy that they got him and spent all that draft capital? I'm just curious.
We have a weekly segment on this show called "We Need to Talk About Jamal," and sometimes we like him, and sometimes we, have some.
He's had 2 solid weeks out of the 9. So
he got his first interception.
Was last week solid or not?
Yeah, not 9 tackles, 10 tackles and a pick. His first pick.
If you put him in the box, he's essentially a linebacker, right?
He is a linebacker.
If you put him in the box,
we're not fooling anybody.
But it's one of those things like Lofa. If they would have said, "Hey, Lofa, you get a blitz every play," how many tackles like behind the line of scrimmage do you think you're going to get? You have no pass responsibilities anymore. You've been like, "Oh man, I'm the best. I'm the best fill in the blank of the league. Whatever position you want to make me, man. I got 27 tackles for loss. I got 14 sacks. Like I can do it all." It seems nuts because there's like this huge disconnect between what you think that position's supposed to be and then what it actually is. And then I'm not sure if you guys have the cornerbacks to be able to not have safety help.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's there's been a lot put on Diggs' plate. And I mean, he's just a stud, like you said.
That dude's a stud, man. I really enjoy watching him.
He runs the alley, he fills, he's great in man or zone coverage. I mean, he's one of the best in the league.
He hits hard too. He brings it.
He's the only guy over the last 5 years to have 3 interceptions every year, 3 or more interceptions every year, and I think he's at 17 or 18 for the last 4 or 5 years. And then,
he's a joy to watch.
They put a lot on him, and it's been tough because with Jamal, you almost have to blitz him because we've put him in the hooks, and it's been tough. He has he's undisciplined in his drops. He's like a dog chasing cars, right? But that's what you love about him because when he does catch one, he gets the ball back. He forces a fumble. He does something, a hellacious.
He hit Lazard so hard. Lazard had the unfortunate responsibility of trying to come in and crack him down when he came in the box.
Yeah. Bring it. That's what he's.
Dude, he was going to the wrong sideline after that hit.
Jamal is about that life.
He is a stud.
The way that they are using him, though, or the way that they're not using him, or whatever, is part of how we don't have an identity. Like, what is Jamal's identity on this team, and how do we use him, and why can't we get consistent with that? It's like all over the place. It's just like we're using guys, but how? And with Jamal and Diggs, excuse me, let's not forget Jamal. We went through all the contract stuff at the beginning of the year and worked all that out, and Diggs wanted a new contract. We didn't give him one, so we're gonna have to go through it again.
Yeah, we can't lose him,
right? And he's playing great. I mean, he's playing better than Jamal, who we gave.
Someone's gonna pay him. Someone's gonna offer him more than we can afford.
Yeah, I love watching him play right now. That's for sure. But offensively though, the Packers. I mean, it was a slow start for Aaron Rodgers coming back because let's not forget he was coming back too. But they finally found it and got it going. Mike, why did it take so long, and then what did they finally find there at the end?
Well, we're trying to establish the run. Unfortunately, we have a couple starters out on the offensive line, and look, Seattle's big up front. They started in that bear front. It seems like every game they're starting that bear front, and they'll go off of that. A lot of teams just right now are trying to stack the line of scrimmage and free up those linebackers at the second level, and sometimes we get up and sometimes we don't. And the thing that you've got 2 big guys in the middle that can kind of clog space, and we don't win those 1v1 blocks as much as we should. I think looking at it from the Packers' perspective. Mm-hmm. So it was like, the only thing that was really effective yesterday is you got big, heavy guys in the middle can only bull rush. So, what's the easiest thing to do is start running the screen game. So the screen game picked up for us a little bit, just getting some easy stuff. But it's funny how just, depending on whose perspective you want to look at, I kind of watched that game. I was like, man, we should have dropped 35 on this game easy. Like it didn't seem like, it just seems like we were missing plays too. from a Packers perspective. And then finally, is like you get to the end of the game, those guys have been out there way too long, and all of a sudden AJ Dillon has like 30-inch thighs. He's 250 pounds and thick and dynamite. And you're like, man, we're just going to run this thing 14 times in a row. What you going to do about it? You know, that guy's he's getting you should see where he was last year, and then even week one, and then see where he is now.
Yeah,
completely different player. Runs behind his pads now.
He doesn't miss leg day, that's for sure. Run on the goal line.
It was a throw to the flats that went for 50 yards. I mean, he broke 3 tackles, and finally Bobby ran him down. But it's like, yeah, like when you could just, and that's what you have with Aaron Jones too. I know he got hurt, but like one of the most explosive guys, and you know, not just running the ball, but also he's an extra receiver when he gets out there in the passing game. So no shortage of weapons over there.
We got rid of Tanyan blew his ACL, I think, last week, right? So we have Mercedes Lewis, who I think has been the best blocking tight end in the league for maybe a decade.
Long time.
But they're trying to bring in they like to run a lot of 2 tight end stuff, and they got two young guys coming in now trying to fill that gap. And they're a little more game for it. Like DeGuara especially is a little more game for getting in the blocking game and everything. But you saw yesterday, like, you know, when Adam's coming off the side, he has a hard time. Or when like a guy like Bobby Wagner, who is so disciplined in the way he fills, like we missed a lot of those, like just really, really easy, what I would consider very, very easy pickups. Yeah. And, you know, when you have really good players in games like that are speaking in inches when everybody else is speaking in yards, you're going to have a tough day.
Yeah. Let's zone in, shall we? We zone in on the show because Lofa's company is Zone In CBD, the best CBD in the biz. Go to zoneincbd.com, everybody, to sign up for your subscription today. It just comes in the mail. You don't ever have to think about it again or think about going and getting your refill of your capsules or your tinctures. Tinctures? I get nervous every time.
Mess that up.
I never nail it.
He wants to say taint so bad.
You got the topicals.
Unbelievable.
You got the topicals, which I guess you could put anywhere, right, Lofa?
Yeah.
Okay. It's all organic, right? Anyway, Zone In CBD, everybody. You can also pick it up in person at Bartell Drug Stores up there in the Pacific Northwest. Use our promo code
BELIEVE, BLEAV.
Receive free shipping on all of your orders at zoneincbd.com. Guys, let's just zone in on our 2 teams here. Where do they go from here? I mean, big win for the Packers. Aaron's back, you know, and then for the Seahawks, it's like, welp, but there's still some games to play, and the Rams did lose last night, and so
they got peppered.
Mike, why don't you start us off with the Packers? Where do they go from here?
Yeah, we have to feel pretty good about the standings, obviously, and our division's terrible. The Lions are. I mean, I guess the Lions are going to find a way to go 0-16 on a 17-game season.
16-1.
Oh, yeah, man, unbelievable. It's like that. That's the wrong thing with ties, by the way. Like somebody deserves to lose that game. That game was absolute garbage. They should. I can't believe that thing would even put it on TV. But we got the Bears are struggling, and so we play the Vikings this week at US Bank Stadium, and the Vikings are always playing like a touchdown spread game every week, so they could have won a lot more than their record displays. And we always kind of think of that as our rival. So if we win this game, or it's almost like you're walking in to the playoffs, and now you're just trying to figure out where you're seated, right? Because you want to. I guess that one spot's the only spot that's valuable anymore. So we look like we're in a prime position to get that, though. And this is the first time that I can say our defense, and it didn't look this way at the beginning of the season. Our defense looks like a Super Bowl winning defense right now. They're playing lights out for the last probably month.
Yeah. You hold Russell Wilson to 0 points for the first time in his career.
We just got a point there. We just got shut out, albeit a valiant effort from the defense. But I mean, where do we go from here, man?
Okay, stop me if you've heard this before, but we got to run the ball. I mean, just to save our legs on defense. I mean, if anybody's out there listening, run the ball. Because, I mean, that's the only thing that can save us right now. Just to buy time on defense, because that's what I don't care how good you are in defense. I don't care if you're the 2000 Ravens, the 02 Bucks, any defense I led, in Seattle. No, I'm just kidding. But you're going to get tired if you're on the field for 70-plus snaps. Yeah. It's just – I don't care if it's freezing over there in Lambeau. Well,
and Russell can run too, guys. I mean, like, he carried the ball 5 times the other night for 32 yards, Like, I know he's coming off the injury, but
it's always when we get behind, though, if you've noticed that. No. Like, when we're behind, he's like, okay, now it's time for me to shine. I'm just going to take off. The only time
running the ball means he can run it too, especially when he's in trouble instead of taking those sacks.
The only time he's done it, though, is what? The San Fran game on the road. You remember? It was vintage Russ. In the first quarter, first half, he ran it, touchdown down the left sideline, came back the next drive, made 3 people miss, 360, and then threw a dart in the corner to I don't know if it was DK or who it was, but that puts the defense on their heels. Mm-hmm. And now when they have that added element, again, of running the ball, whether it's Russ or us, the running backs, you have to defend more than one thing. It's a nightmare.
Do you want it schematically? Like, are you saying schematically you want them to put in more RPOs or –
I mean,
more option runs with Russell. Hey, you're going to run this ball. This ball is going to be on the ground.
When the pocket is collapsing, he used to just go forward and squirt out of there and get 2 yards.
Yeah, but teams are getting smart with that, right? Like there's a reason that's happening. Your guards and your centers get bull rushed like yesterday, like you saw it. They get bull rushed like nobody's business. There's nowhere to go.
I just cannot take another time where he puts both hands around the ball, shrinks down, and just
But I don't know if they're allowing him to check out of a run to a pass, Mike. That's what I'm saying. If it's you're going to check a run to another run, and we live with the consequences because at least the clock's running. We have to shorten the game. We have to. That's exactly what San Fran's mindset was going into the Rams. And Shanahan has owned McVay and the Rams. I'm just going to put that out there. Why? Because ground controlling the clock. I mean, it was an 11-minute drive. Do you know how defeating that is when that happens in the first quarter? I don't think I've ever had that happen in the first quarter, thank God. It's happened in the second or the third, but oh my God, an 18-play drive?
There was some bad stuff, you guys. I mean, there was a time where he ran up to the line, was audibling all over the place, yelling to everybody, changing the play at the last second. Play clock's winding down. He drops back, snaps the ball, and just throws it out of bounds over everybody's head. And I was
you guys know when you lost that game, right? You guys know when you lost the game for sure, though.
What was that audible? What
was that, Mike?
Go, Mike. When?
You guys lost the game when you guys did the flea flicker for a screen pass to the tight end, man. I was like, I looked at my son. I was like, hey, Maddie, game's over, man. This game's a wrap.
Dude.
If that's all they got, if that was the best call they had for this situation, game is a wrap.
That was my next. I was just going to say the audible one and then that play. Like, that was ridiculous. I don't even.
But again, we leave Alex Collins averaging 4.1. Let's just not give him the ball anymore. Travis Homer, every time he touches the ball.
Producer Courtney, please.
I think he's averaging 8 to 10 every time he touches the ball. Homer,
hit some music. We got to wrap this thing up. I can't. I would just be here all day.
All right. Well, we always break it down, so we're going to break it down to guess what.
Wait, let me wrap it up. Hold on. That's a wrap. I'm calling a stop to this. Mercy rule. It's over. All right. On to next week. We got to be goldfish, guys. Over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
For Lofa, I'm Brett, and for producer Courtney and Katie and intern Brian and Mike, I'm Brett. This has been the Seahawks Podcast. If you guys got questions or comments, hit us up on the email seahawkspod@gmail.com. That's seahawkspod@gmail.com. Mike and Amon Green, they're doing it on their podcast, On My Block Podcast. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. Just search for it, On My Block Podcast. There's also a million social media handles. Mike, tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah, Instagram, Process to Perform, and Twitter at Unrivaled ESS. I also run a Process to Perform player development podcast, players, parents, and coaches. You're interested in that, check that out at process2perform.com or anywhere you get your podcast.
Nice. Thanks for jumping on, man. Next time, hopefully Amon can jump on too, but either way, dude, just it's too much fun. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Wait, we're gonna break it down.
Yeah, no, we're gonna break it down. Don't worry, we're breaking it down.
Put your arm in there.
Put your arm in there, just like you guys used to after practice. Go ahead.
We break it down on 3.
All right.
And it's gonna be a shock to you guys, but Mike used to love to run the ball as a defense. I used to like to watch us run the ball. So we're gonna run the ball on 3. Because that's the only thing that's gonna get us out of this mess. Run the ball on 3. 1, 2, 3. Run the ball.
Here we go.
I'm telling you, if we don't run trouble.